So some of us are having trouble with division, and that's okay. When you do division, think of it as the opposite of multiplying. So if we had a problem like 54 divided by 6, then I just need to think the opposite and think about multiplying. So 6 times what number is going to equal 54? That's when we get a multiplication chart. That's probably the best tool to use when you're dividing. A multiplication chart can help me figure out that 6 times 9 is equal to 54. So then 54 divided by 6 is equal to 9. Now, if you like to draw pictures, I think that also helps as well. If you started with 54 dots, circles, squares, anything, and you split them into 6 equal groups, then you would end up with 9 dots, circles, or squares in each group. So drawing a picture also helps. What happens when the numbers aren't so easy? Well, let's talk about it. 72 divided by 2. I could use a multiplication chart, but I probably won't find my answer on there because the multiplication chart only goes up to certain numbers. So I can still draw a picture, but that might also take me a long time. But your multiplication chart will still come in handy. So let's think about it. I need to think the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So 2 goes into 72 how many times? Well, let's start with 7. 2 times what gets me 7? Or at least as close as I can get. Well, I know that 2 times 3 gets me 6, and that's as close as I'm going to get to 7. So 2 times 3 gets me 6. If I take away 6 from 7, that leaves me with 1 left over. But I can't have a remainder, so I've got to bring down the 2. And then I start the process over. 2 times what gets me 12, or at least as close as I can get. I know that 2 times 6 is equal to 12. 12 minus 12 leaves me with 0. And I know that 72 now, divided by 2, is equal to 36. So you can still use a multiplication chart, you just have to separate each number and use it to figure out how many times your divisor goes into your dividend. What happens if you keep getting a remainder? That is when a decimal comes in. So let's say we have 73 divided by 2. Well, let's try it again. I want to know how many times 2 can go into 7. So 2 times what gets me 7, or at least as close as I can get? We said that 2 times 3 is as close as I can get to getting to 7, and 2 times 3 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. I can't have a remainder, so I bring it down. That becomes 13. Now, how many times does 2 go into 13? 2 times what gets me 13, or as close as I can get? Well, if I looked at a multiplication chart, 2 times 6 is as close as I can get to 13. And 2 times 6 is 12. 13 minus 12 leaves me with 1. Uh-oh, I have a remainder, and I'm out of numbers to bring down. This is where you get your decimal. Your decimal hangs out with Mr. Zero. Remember, Mr. Decimal has to go home, and he lives uptown. Mr. Zero lives downtown. So 1 has now become 10. 2 goes into 10 how many times? Or 2 times what gets me 10, or as close as I can get. Using that multiplication chart, I know that 2 times 5 gets me 10. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 10 leaves me with 0, no remainder. And that just simply means that 73 divided by 2 is 36 and 5/10. So division is just multiplication, you're just doing the opposite. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Thank you.